Hello and welcome to the All Walks of Life podcast. My guest on the show today is Mr. Amit Sinha, a sports journalist and podcaster who is currently writing a book on India's captain cool MS Dhoni with his co-writer Joy Bhattacharjya. Amit is a fascinating character, and this has probably been one of the most interesting chats I've had in a while. In this conversation with Amit, we speak about a range of topics, starting from his podcast, which in my sense is pretty interesting, because I do listen to a lot of podcasts, but I haven't come across a podcast where it's just two people sitting around and discussing photos. Really, I found that a really interesting concept. So yeah, I speak to him about that and where he got the idea about starting a podcast like that from. I discuss some of the guests he's had on his podcast, including the likes of former India cricketers Deepdas Gupta and Snehal Pradhan. I had to ask him about MS Dhoni, and we went in depth about MS Dhoni's character, the man he is, and just why there is this sort of fascination around him, and everyone wants to get a piece of him in that sense. We also talked about the prominence of social media and how the way we consume cricket has also changed. Long gone have the days of sitting around and listening to cricket on the radio, whatever romantic notions we may have about it. But there's been this change about how we consume cricket in the modern day. We speak about that and also broader questions of why sport is important for us in society. This was my longest podcast as of date, yet it seemed pretty short in that sense. I am certain that Amit will be back on the show in the future. Until then, do enjoy my conversation with Amit. Amit, welcome to the All Walks of Life podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on.
It's a pleasure to be here, Ishan. How are you doing? All good?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. So it's really interesting to speak to you because I find your style of podcasting quite unique. So I do listen to a lot of podcasts, but I haven't really come to, let's say, a podcast like yours, which talks about certain photos that a guest really likes, and be it in a cricketing context as well. So where did that idea come from, if we have to start, I guess?
I guess the idea came from, my interest in photographs, something that I had been doing for a fairly long time. If you are aware, there is this page on Facebook from where it all began, which is called Random Cricket Photos That Make Me Happy, a very random name that I chose. And, one day I was sitting in the office and, being so much interested in cricket, I was reading an article on, I guess, Cricket for a Quick Buzz. And there was a particular incident about one of these South African bowlers showing a red card to the crowds because they were booing him. Okay. And I was like, wait, is there any photographic evidence of this? And I began looking for that photo on the internet and I found the photograph. And, then I read the story around it and everything. And I thought, okay, fine, let's do one thing. I anyway love cricket. That's a given. And everyone around me who knows anything about me knows that for sure. So I started posting a photograph with that hashtag every day. Okay. No stories, nothing. I would just post the photograph. And then people started reacting to it. People started enjoying it. So they told, you should give it a wider audience. So that's why the page came up. And what happened with the page was that I started telling the stories of those photographs. Now I was not just putting up a photo only. There had to be something, captivating. There had to be something about that photograph that had a story to it that I was sharing. All right. So, and that meant that I was diving very deep into the world of cricket photographs, and I was reading about a lot of photographers and their works. And I have had, so many great readings, just, reading about them and reading their stories. So, yeah, so this dive into the world of cricket photographs is fairly old. And then I thought, well, this pandemic has happened, this lockdown has happened. Let's try to do something new. Let's try to, go beyond than just posting a picture and its story on Facebook, which of course has received a great feedback. And that was actually the motivation. It was an idea that I was again at work, and what I guess somewhere around 12th of February this year, I was at work and I just posted on the page, that this is the idea. How would you like it? And people reacted very positively to it. So I thought, okay, let's try. Let's give it a shot. And I then contacted some of the people. I mean, I've been working in sports for a while, so I have some people I could go to and bounce that idea off, and they were also very excited about it, and that's how it began. I mean, it was always, if there was ever going to be a podcast, it was always going to be on cricket photos because of my fascination with it.
No, that's really interesting. It's a great story to hear as well. But what do you think it's about photos in that sense? Because obviously we can read great articles, we can read great books about the sport, about other topics as well. But it's just that in the life we're currently living, with social media all around us and us being totally consumed by social media, it's about, let's say, even if you're scrolling through your Instagram feed, it's just one particular photo, or on Twitter, that generally catches your eye. So why do you think that photos, let's say, draw our attention much closer than, let's say, a text piece maybe? Is it because of the visual aspect of it, or is it something deeper?
So, you know what? I mean, look, you see any article about a sportsman or about a match in a newspaper, you'll always see a photo attached to it, okay? But you will also realize that that photo has very little value of its own, as in, it's just there to supplement the article. What I did through that page, and I mean, that was the idea, was to make the photo the center of the story. I mean, my story is not getting supplemented by the photo, but the story itself is about the photograph. And, the reason why I like photographs is particularly for this very thing, that they allow me to tell a story. Okay. I mean, now that I have gotten your attention with, just imagine you are scrolling through your Facebook or Instagram and you see this photograph of a cricket bowler playing in his whites and extending his arm with the red card in his hand. Okay. Won't you be intrigued? Right? You would be intrigued, right? And then that allows me, I mean, after I have caught the attention of the people with that photograph, that allows me to tell the story. So that is the thing. I mean, look, there are so many people around who, post a lot of videos on their Twitter accounts and all. Even I do that. Okay. But the thing with videos is there is no room to tell stories. Photos allow me that, and, if you talk to anyone who was following the game, say in the 70s or 80s, they would talk about this romance of radio commentary. Okay. The romance of radio commentary was largely because of the fact that you could hear things, okay, you cannot see anything, but because you're so invested in it, and because of the way the commentators are presenting things to you, you can almost imagine things in your head. And when you are imagining yourself, you almost let it run wild, right? So that scope is there, and that scope is also there with photographs. Let's be very honest, the photograph is the bait. What I want to do is tell stories through it, So the photograph, recently I posted a photograph of a couple of fans from Australia who traveled to England in 2001. What they did was, since they did not find tickets for the match, they, they booked a B&B right across the stadium. They hired a crane and they went 40 feet up and watched the match through the crane. So that's the point. That's that. And when you see that photograph, you're like, what is wrong with these people? As in, we can't itne upar baitha hua. So that's the point. That my photograph is the bait, okay, and then I'm going to make you read the story. So that's the thing. I mean, I've always loved telling stories, and just that,
Amit, I see there's I think there's this fascination, and I've heard, let's say, different authors talk about it. People who are really into reading a lot, they actually talk about this essence. And I think I can tie it in with radio commentary in that sense. Because if you don't get a visual aspect of things and you aren't there at the ground, you aren't seeing how the bowler is bowling, how the batsman is playing the shot and things like that. As you said, you almost let yourself go wild and imagine how, let's say, the bowler is trying to bowl and trying to play mind games with the batsman, which may sometimes, most times, actually be more beautiful than what's actually happening there on the ground.
Yeah. Exactly the case. Yeah.
So I think there is I don't know, it's probably just me as a romantic, and because my dad also talks about this, of how he grew up watching cricket, and yeah, I think there is an essence of that. But
Yeah, I mean, look, at this point, we have, if you see cricket coverage now, it captures everything. As in, it's remarkable how with so many cameras and all, pretty much every expression of every single player on the field is captured. Okay, but what if you cannot capture it? And if you watch if you watch cricket in the stadium, some find it very bland because, well, you do not have the luxury of watching replays. Okay, but some also find it interesting because it is there in its raw form. You are not seeing the expression on the faces of an msdhoni or Sachin Tendulkar, but you're like, ha, ye soch raha hoga. He must be thinking like this at this point. So, that bit, what has happened, in our times, there is content everywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
So we are fed everything. So our imaginations, they have gone a little bit rusty, right? So it's fascinating when you feed that, when give that a little bait, then you're like, let's get into the story. And yeah, I mean, the thing is that when you are writing, you can also tell tales about so much that is not there in the photograph, right? It is not binding you to that frame, okay? So yeah, that way there is so much that you can do with storytelling.
Have you heard about this concept? So I've gone to see a couple of games in England, and they have this. So even if you're seated in the stadium, you can hire. I think there's this sort of a teleprompter, and then you can plug your earphones in and listen to the commentary as the game's going on. What are your reactions on that? Like, it totally takes away from the conversation we're currently having. And if a place like England, which is seen as, let's say, who actually want to preserve sort of that prestige of cricket in that sense, tradition of cricket,
Well, I mean, I'm up for all sorts of innovations and people trying out new different things. And, of course, look, there are people who want to preserve that tradition. That's always going to be there. But there are always going to be people who would want to tinker around and see where, what new innovation can do. So it's a fun thing. And, like even in Indian stadiums, as much as you enjoy the atmosphere, most of the times what you hear is utter trash. Like, so much of the crowd, I mean, of course it shows how involved they are, but most of the times they are abusing the players, they are making absolutely stupid comments. So why not just hear good commentary? I wouldn't mind that, to be honest.
No, but just tying that back to this whole aspect of writing, and I feel that when there are cricket writers, sports journalists in that sense, who are reporting on games and they have to come back and write about that particular game, they can often, when they don't have that visual set in front of them, almost pick on aspects of cricket that may have happened in the match and link into much broader topics, be it politics, be it society, and how, let's say, cricket is important in that sense, you can say. Like, I'm not sure if you've heard about this, but in the 2012 London Olympics, like for the opening ceremony, they had cricket as the presenting sport over there, because they wanted to show it shows a sort of Englishness, even though cricket's not an Olympic sport as such. So do you see that? Do you see that because you work in sport as well, that when you don't have that and you're simply sitting down and concentrating on writing on the match, you can sort of draw comparisons which are much broader than simply a sport?
Yeah, that's true. And, with cricket, I think cricket as a sport also, if you see, it has the writer, you get 5 days to write about a test match, right? So there is a lot of space and you get 8 hours to write about a one-day game. So there's a lot of space for the writer to think about. So when I look at writings about different sports, probably one reason for cricket writing being so romantic, and as you said, they draw so many elements from different things. It's possibly because it comes from English culture. So there is a certain amount of charm, romance, and Victorian zeal to all of that, presenting everything with wrapping it in romance. That is also there. Plus, people there writing match reports have ages, right? So they have lots of thoughts that are flying around. I mean, come on, you can't be 8 hours of the day. You can't be just thinking, and you can't be
riveted by. it would be, don't you think it'd be pretty bland as well? Like if you're simply reporting for 8 hours, it would just be like a long worded scorecard in that sense of this
Absolutely,
happening in
absolutely.
that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why there has to be, some spice to your writing, because otherwise, look, in a test match, 300 runs are scored for the loss of 6 wickets. Okay, pretty much everyone can understand how, the test, a day pans out in test cricket. So, cricket as a game is also challenging in a way for a writer to write, because, the writer has to reinvent, the writer has to adapt, innovate, to make his writing interesting. And that's why we have some really fantastic writers today, and you read them and you realize, okay, these people, they are not just describing the game, like you read someone called, Siddharth Vaidyanathan and all these people, they are not just describing the game, uh, they're able to catch so many emotions around a particular, action on the cricket field. So they are bound to do that. They are sort of forced to do that, because the cricketing action does not make for great, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can write that he hoiked the ball for 6 over the cow corner and all that, but उसमें मजा नहीं है, right? So when you add a little bit of emotion, you tell what happened before that ball, if you tell what was the reaction of the crowd, so that gets you, that's what I'm saying, that the game itself is such, if you want to write about it, you need to add some spice to it, because somewhere it's a little too bland.
Right. So my main sport, I would say, is football. So that's a sport I generally watch a lot more. And I've heard football journalists talk about this, that there's a reason that they aren't coaches and they aren't people working technically. So they wouldn't understand, let's say, if a team is playing against another, how and what tactical they may have a rough idea of what's happening, but they may not be so intricate in the way that what the coach is actually trying to put out. So it says, so what they often do is that it'd be cruel in that sense to actually try to even understand what's happening. So that's why most of them try to look at these romantic aspects of connecting it with broader aspects in society, because they feel as a journalist, as a writer, those are their strong points. And for the layman like the both of us maybe, who aren't watching football enough and aren't engrossed in the subject, those may be, as I may say, more appealing in that sense even, and what may sell newspapers. Yeah.
True, can totally understand. I mean, I guess it has got to do with everything sports, as in, look, sports is just one aspect of our lives, right? And more often than not, you're watching sports because, well, there is not a lot good happening on the political front and all that. So sports is entertainment, but at the same time, those underlying tensions are also there. So it's I mean, a good writer can connect all of it and present to you. So yeah, it's just fascinating how it happens, but great.
So you've spoken to quite a few interesting characters in the cricketing industry. What have been some takeaways? What have been some takeaways you've had from the conversations, which you felt that, oh wow, yeah.
Great conversations I've had with a lot of these guests, and look, because of the nature of the show, I mean, the one idea that I was very fascinated was that I do not want something that would get stale very quickly, right? If I and you have a discussion, say, about a particular series, once the series gets over, there is, of course, no one is going to come back and watch it. So the idea about talking about cricket photographs is because anyone who has a certain romance for the game, anyone who is steeped in nostalgia, can go back and watch it at any point of time, right? So that way, I mean, I learned so many anecdotes from such brilliant cricket historians like Abhishek Mukherjee, great cricket historian, told, I mean, photographs that I had seen. Okay, I've been seeing a lot of photographs for all these years, but the story behind those photographs, so I got a lot of that. And then I had one of my favorite episodes was talking to Jarrod Kimber. Jarrod, of course, is someone who has revolutionized the way cricket is written. And, I mean, it was so fascinating to talk to him. I guess we had a conversation for a good 80 minutes or something. And the best thing that I found about that conversation was that, like, I was, while talking to him, I was making notes of, hey, yeah, this is fascinating. I mean, there was so much to learn. There was so much to learn. And he was speaking right from his heart. And one thing that I found very interesting was like a lot of us, we write cricket the way we have read it. All right. I mean, of course, everyone grows up reading cricket in the newspaper. Everyone who writes cricket at least grows up reading it in the newspaper reports and all that. So did we. So did I. And I mean, I really enjoyed reading Vijay Lokapally and all these people, while growing up. And there is a certain influence that is bound to be there. You get an idea of, okay, this is how cricket is written. Now, with the case with Jarrod Kimber is very interesting, is because he never read newspaper while growing up, right? He didn't read sports while growing up. So what he writes, his style, which is very unique and which has sort of made heads turn, is largely self-developed. I mean, he writes the way as he sees it. Okay, so I found that very fascinating, and that's something that like so many people write cricket today. Okay, so and some write it really beautifully, but at the same time, the one that stands out is one that is not what do I say, taught by these, like the past, the tradition as we call it. Like it is a style that he developed on his own. And yeah, fascinating conversations we have had. I mean, one really interesting aspect of the conversation with Jarrod was I was talking that, don't you think that there are too many matches going on? As in, for a cricket memory to linger on for a long time, what is required is that it is given some space to grow, right? I mean, the reason we remember a test match from 1960 or a test match from 1986 is because it grew, like as more and more people wrote about it, it grew in stature, right? But what happens today is, say, a Ben Stokes kind of knock happened in 2019, and with so much cricket around, it's quite possible that we might have another Ben Stokes kind of knock very soon, right? So there is too much of cricket going around, which doesn't allow these memories to bloom into what, the way we look at the memories from 1960s or 1970s. But the flip side to it is that the more matches that we have, the more cricket that we have, it also would result in some time, in the associate nations getting to play more, they coming into the fold. Okay, so it was a discussion that I had with him, and he said that which one do you favor? I mean, you can have less cricket and you can have it between the big teams and all, but does it really benefit the cause of the game in the longer run? And I was like, yeah, you're right. I mean, like 12 years down the line, if a Thailand cricket team plays the World Cup, or say Malaysian cricket team plays the World Cup, that's the growth of the game, right? So yeah, I mean, little sacrifices that can be made. So that way, it's a very fascinating set of guests, and I really enjoyed our conversations. Not only just anecdotal, there was also, there is a segment in my show which is called the one that got away, where I asked the guest about a photograph which wasn't, taken, because I mean, of course, not everything is captured, right? But the one that they were witness to, and or they've read about, but so and in that section, I've got such amazing stories of the game, and about Vijay Lokapally sir. He writes for the Hindu, and he was at the ground when Virat Kohli played that knock of 90 after a day after his father had passed away, and the way he described the emotion surrounding that knock, and the way everyone in the dressing room reacted to that man who was, of course, going through immense grief. So yeah, you get to know these things in these podcasts, and I've been really lucky to have been able to hear such stories. So yeah, that's one thing that I've really loved about the podcast series.
That's fantastic, and that's sort of the reason I wanted to start my podcast as well. It's just that just listening to other people, it's just that there's so much to learn. Be it wherever you come from, I feel that every conversation I have, there's a lot of takeaway I generally take in those podcasts. But so I wanted to touch upon this aspect of Jarrod Kimber's writing style. So you were describing that. What sort of a writing style does he have then? If you do know about it, and would you like to share?
His writing style is, I mean, look, I've been reading about the game since what, like I was 6 or 7. Okay. I was 6 when I started watching cricket, 99 World Cup, and I right into the pool, I jumped into it. Okay. And after that, every morning, the first thing that I would do before, leaving for school, I would ensure that I read the sports page completely. So for the last 20 years of my life, I've been reading cricket. Okay. And of course, as I grew up, I started reading a lot of books and all that. Now, where Kimber, is different is that he completely has turned the paradigm upside down. I mean, he would bring in so many pop culture references, and there is no inhibition in his style of writing.
Right.
He's not trying to romanticize anything. Okay, like people are trying. The writing that I have read till now, and the writing that I have been influenced myself largely till now, it's very very little variation is allowed there. Okay, I mean, you describe a cricket match, there is a certain romanticization of it, and that's it. Okay, but when you see a writer who is talking about Star Wars and he's talking about Darth Vader in describing a cricket match, yeah, it's madness. I mean, his writing is madness, and his writing is so different that it has. I mean, I read articles on these websites, and I see so much of that influence because he has made it big. He has made it big with his style, his peculiar style. So there are so many people who are actually trying to copy that style. So yeah, that is the way in which his writing is absolutely different and so much more fun to read, so much engaging, because trust me, I haven't read anything like that before. I have read so many writers, and I'm not saying he's the best cricket writer or anything, but it is the one style of writing that stands out, right?
Right.
So that is the one thing. I mean, for the last 10 years, I've been reading him, and he doesn't cease to fascinate with, the references he makes, and completely uninhibited. Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
his first blog in 2008, the one that saw him become popular, it was called cricket with balls. Okay. And the balls. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. He is not in any way reserved, or
Right.
a lot of us would, because hey, it's a Victorian sports, we are not
Nah.
bringing those references and all that, right? He's not that sort. Okay, and that's the best
Yeah.
part. He comes from Australia and doesn't really pay a lot of respect to those conventions, and look
Right.
where he has reached with that. So I find his trajectory as a writer of the game very fascinating. And he's always
So
up to new things. He's currently doing a lot of
yeah.
video essays and all that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, podcasting also he started 10 years ago, and all these things. So
Wow.
yeah, he's someone who, wherever he saw an opportunity, he tried to do something that people were not doing at that point of time. All right,
Mm.
and that has been the reason for his fascinating growth and journey.
He sounds like an interesting character.
He
So
is.
do you do you like you mentioned that he isn't afraid of putting references out there which may not be norm to the convention and so in that sort of way. Is there still this I don't know how to say it. Is there still this perception that people have that if you want to make it in cricket writing as a journalist or as an author, that you have to abide by these set of principles or rules because cricket has traditionally been written in this way? Or are you seeing more and more cricket journalists who are writing in the way they want to?
Yeah, I mean, uh, I'm currently writing a book on Mahendra Singh Dhoni for Penguin, co-authoring it with Mr. Joy Bhattacharjya.
Wow.
Okay, and like, of course, as much as I want to, go full throttle with it, I have to stick to certain conventions as far as, because yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, the audience is not really ready for. Not a lot of audience is ready for, Darth Vader references and all that, right? So you have to limit yourself in that way, but at the same time, you know uh, like this little revolution that I'm talking about, that Jarrod has been able to bring, it has affected a lot of others. And the best part about Jarrod's writing, and he says it himself, is that he didn't try to write as an expert of the game. He was writing it as the fan of the game. Okay.
Hmm.
And the more you read today's writers, there is someone called Fernando, brilliant writer again from Sri Lanka. Style very, again, I won't say similar to Jarrod, but again, it's not. It doesn't follow the conventions. It doesn't follow the norms. So because of Jarrod Kimber, I would say, and I mean, there must be some more people who who were revolutionary that I'm not able to talk about right now. I mean, I personally haven't read someone as revolutionary as Jarrod as far as cricket writing goes. So, but yeah, I mean, because of him, I see so many people at least like letting go of those norms and conventions. Okay, I mean, it does come across as if they are trying to ape his style, which of course is not the best way, but at the same time it is sort of loosening the game a bit with like it's not no more anymore, no more tightly fit in that tied in those conventions. So that's good, that's really nice to know.
No. So I wanted to tie it all back to, let's say, where it all started for you. So what were your first memories of cricket? Like every Indian guy has this sense that their father brought him a cricket bat and that's how they started playing at home. Was it sort of similar for you? You talked about reading newspapers every day. So what were your earlier memories?
Look, I mean, I was born in a family. Okay, I have three elder sisters. So, but at the same time, my father loves cricket. So we used to watch cricket together, all of us, like six of us. So I remember watching the 1999 World Cup, India versus South Africa at Hove. It was the second match of the tournament. Okay, and I mean, I barely knew the rules of the game. I was what, 5 at that point. Okay, like almost 6, because it so. I watched that tournament. Ganguly scored 97, and then he scored 183 against Sri Lanka and all those, right? So I grew up becoming a fan of Saurav Ganguly. Okay, and one of the major reasons why I am so obsessed with cricket is largely because we didn't have cable television till 2009. So all that I had was a black and white TV with Doordarshan on it. And yeah, so I mean, the shows on Doordarshan were pathetic, right? Let's be honest about it. Those were not shows that I would like wait for or watch. There were some Shaktiman and all that, but beyond that, there was nothing to like really wait for. Cricket, okay, and Bollywood movies. And the thing with cricket is that, like again, you do not get full matches on Doordarshan. Right, so you would get only the first session of the game, the play, and not the first session. The first, it used to start at 9:30 and 11 o'clock. The feed would be cut. Okay, then it would come back at 3:30 and 5 o'clock. The feed would be cut. So first half of the first session and last half of the final session of the day. We are talking about test matches here. Okay. And I would wait for that. I would wait like the entire Abhi series aayega, so I would wait for it. And so many days, I mean, I would just not go to school because that was the only thing that I had to look forward to. So I used to skip school, and so on so many occasions, I would be awake at 7:30. But since the first ball would be delivered at 9:30, I would not open my eyes until 9:30, because the first thing that I want to watch in my day is the test match, or is the match, right? And the problem would be on days where I would have day and night fixtures, day and night one day, all right. I have no idea how do I spend time, the time from waking up till 2 o'clock, because tab tak main kya karu? I'm just absolutely going bonkers ki how do I, because okay, and there was the thing, the matches I would wait for, like very religiously. India would go on to lose them. So I knew that I had to keep myself distracted, right? I had to keep myself like completely, don't think about it, don't think about the match, because if you think too much about it, India would go on to lose it. So it was a big trouble. It was a big, how do I keep myself occupied till that point? So yeah, so that used to happen. And yeah, I mean, I've watched test matches the entire day. Like, I guess I don't know if a lot of people from I don't know, from your generation would or from people who had cable, they wouldn't understand it. But when India toured Pakistan in 2004, it was of course a big series, right? It was the friendship series. After so many years, India was traveling to Pakistan and all that. And the broadcasters of that series, those who had secured the rights, they were like very adamant that we would not share the feed with Doordarshan. So there was a chance that I would not get to watch matches on Doordarshan. And my God, that thought was very, and so the story is that Doordarshan, these people went to court about that decision because, of course, this was a series of national importance and all that and all right. Because so finally, 10 sports people agreed that we would, 10 cricket it used to be, I guess, at that point, that we would allow you to run the feed, but with our logo on. Okay, so there would be matches on Doordarshan with 10 cricket on, and you will not believe the amount of relief I felt the day that decision came. So yeah, that used to be the craze for watching cricket. And I mean, I was never a good cricket when it comes to a cricketer when it comes to playing the game. The only thing that I could do was I loved bowling. Okay, I love bowling off spin. So that's something that I've done a lot. But my love for cricket has come from watching a lot of it and reading a lot of it. And I've been quizzing all these years, and like for the last 7 years of my life, been quizzing in the Delhi circuit and outside it. So yeah, that's where that was one reason where my reading for the game, I got a major motivation, because was 2013 tak, 2013 tak, I used to think, okay, fine, I watch a lot of cricket, so I know a lot of the game. And then I went into this quiz, okay, and I was like, boss, I am pretty secure because I know I'm pretty sure that I'm going to do well in it.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that, and I went to the quiz with just an old friend of mine. He doesn't know much cricket. I like, but मैं हूँ ना, हो जाएगा. Right? I'm so confident about myself. And then I realized what university level cricket quizzing is. Okay, and I mean, yeah, I missed out on the top six, like the final by what, 2 points. Okay, but even then, like we scored 7 out of 25. The cutoff was 9, and but yeah, that day I realized no, there is a lot that you need to know about the game. And after that, and of course, I mean, I realized, okay, this is some form of quizzing that I can do well at, because the foundation is there. I definitely know a good deal about the game. And then I began reading about the sport. So I would say the first 13 years, first 12 years, it's more about watching the sport passionately, following the sport, and reading in newspaper reports. But after that, it like that then the craze went like multifold, higher. Now I had to read everything, I had to know everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
So like a lot of questions in those quizzes were like, they would show a random black and white photo and identify the cricketer. Okay. And I was like, yeah, ye kaise solve kare? The only way I can solve this is by seeing every single cricketer's photograph. And you wouldn't believe it. Even right now in my phone, there is at least there's a folder of cricketers' photographs. Only their mug shots, around 1,800 photos of cricketers. Okay, that's from 2013, because I was like, if I have to win these quizzes, I have to ensure that I know every single cricketer's face. Okay, so yeah, that went crazy. I mean, that's where like reading about the game started, and now the storytelling that I do, as far as cricket is concerned, is largely because I read a lot in that period. I mean, so many people, they say, ki yaar, how do you not run out of stories to tell? I'm like, listen, I'm being able to tell the stories of the photographs. If I am given the chance to tell stories which are not bounded by photographs, I have so many of them. So yeah, this is because of the quizzing that I've done, intense quizzing. I've conducted a lot of them, and yeah, it's great. I mean, just getting an incentive to read about the game, it's amazing.
So quizzing has been something I've been fascinated from, and every quizzer has their own way of going about things. You talked about this folder and storing pictures since 2013 and aspects like that. But there are others who would consume everything from all areas because they don't know, like, anything can come up basically. And some would only recognize things that they feel is important and can come up. So like, I mean, my question here is that even if you are looking at pictures like that, don't you always have this fear that whatever I do, there isn't going to be a very efficient way of quizzing, really, because there is so much to learn?
Yeah, I mean, look, my area is very narrow, right? I have quizzed a lot. I have quizzed different fields. Okay, I've done India quizzing. I've been a major film quizzer and all that. But like the one thing that I have excelled at over the years is cricket quizzing. But cricket in itself is fairly narrow, right? I mean, even if you compare it with something like football, you have so many clubs. You have so many and clubs with long
Yeah.
histories, right? So cricket that way is fairly limited, fairly easy to learn about, and yeah, I mean there is no one perfect way that you would know कि हाँ मैंने if I have read about it ये तो आएगा and I'll crack it. No, what happens
Mm-hmm.
is there is a there is an information or there is a trivia that I consumed while say preparing for a quiz in 2013. In 2015 to 2017 some question comes up and that preparation comes into play, right? So there is never a perfect method of going about it, but yeah, I mean cricket being slightly narrow, this helped me a lot. I can right now tell you how does a player from the 1960s who played just a single test match for England, how does he look like and all that. So yeah, those are crazy things. And again, the point is that this is with regards to quizzing in general. One when you consume information in terms of trivia, it's like you are consuming droplets, okay? Just like one single narrow piece of information. But the more trivia you consume, you realize, okay, they are part of a larger narrative, and there is a connection between this and that, right? So that makes it easy. I mean, and that goes for any field of quizzing that you do, right? You would realize ki, okay, there are interconnections here. The more you learn, the more you go deeper into, accumulating information. You would know ki, yeah, I mean, there is a connection between, say, a Pakistani cricketer of the 70s to, an Indian cricketer of the 2000s. So, kuch na kuch hai. As in, for that matter, this very famous West Indian bowler called Andy Roberts, okay, he was given a nickname, okay, because he used to be fairly terrorizing kind of a bowler who would hit a lot of batsmen with his deliveries. So he was given a nickname which is very, which you hear every now and then because with regards to a certain Indian cricketer today. The nickname was Hitman. Okay, he used to hit a lot of batsmen, and now because of Rohit Sharma, the Rohit and
Yeah.
the Hitman. So yeah, things are connected. Like it's just when you begin to look deeper, you realize that ये तो काफी connected है. So and when you realize how connected things are, it becomes very easier to retain that information. So
So
that
you feel like creating themes in that sense. Like if it's
absolutely.
a sort of theme, it almost resonates much easier because you can then pinpoint different players on that, particular events on that, particular matches on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in my phone, I'm going back to that preparation. So one thing that used to happen in those quizzes was there's something called the visual connects. Okay, so we would be shown 5 pictures and we would be told what is the connect between these people. So I prepared myself for every such possible visual connect that can come. Okay. So that, yeah. So I mean, my best answer ever in a quiz. Okay. And I'm not bragging about it, but I know for sure that I can't ever better it. There was this long visual connect, and the way long visual connect goes is the first question, the first photograph they would show you, it's of 120 points. If you guess the theme after seeing that first photograph, you get 120. Okay. if
Wow.
if no one
Okay.
goes for it, then it's 110, then it's so in decreasing order. So it's
Yeah.
about at what point you recognize the theme and you get those points. If you get it wrong, you get like 60 minus points and 30 minus points, that way. Now, this was in 2014, okay, and this was 2016. There is this very famous quiz festival in Delhi called Barefoot Quizzing Festival, and it has all the sports quizzes, and one of the quizzes was like one there was a very good cricket quiz happening there. We qualified for the finals, and we were like, it was a very hard fought contest till then. And then suddenly like this round comes, which is called the long visual connect, and I see this player, like the photo of a player who played for Pakistan in, I guess, 1950s. Okay, and I'm like, this player is Imtiaz Ahmed. Okay, only thing that he has, like, the reason that he can be asked about in a quiz is his highest score is 99. All right, and in my phone there was a folder of players who had that highest score of 99. So there is Deepak Patel in there of New Zealand, Shane Warne of Australia, Mitchell Stark of Australia, Martin Muxon of England. So I know all these players, Norman Yardley. So I don't. And the moment I saw that cricketer, I like, he's the most obscure person on that list.
Right.
But because I had seen his photograph, I was like, this is like the long visual connect is all these players have a highest score in Test cricket of 99, and we cracked that answer there. So that's how you go about it. I mean, that's some preparation.
So how many hours, how much time are you spending on this quizzing every single day, or how do you go about this?
I used to quiz very fervently when I was in college, okay, and that was just not cricket, okay. I mean, I would go to every single quiz, India quiz, Bollywood quiz, and all of that. But for cricket, I was like, I know my cricket at a very basic level. I mean, having followed the game, I had the foundation required for me to delve deeper into it. Also the motivation, because I love it so much, and also there was a matter of ego कि यार मुझे तो लगता था मुझे बहुत सारा आता है, right? And then I realized कि नहीं, actually नहीं आता है. I'm like, no, this can't happen. I mean, after having watched so much of cricket, I better know more about it. And so that's why, I mean, I would like once that quiz was lost, the one that I where I realized, oh shit, ye kaise ho gaya. After that, I would spend hours collecting information about these cricketers, reading about their Wikipedia pages and all that. And I mean, if you read Wikipedia pages, one thing leads to another. There are so many links. This player played in this particular series, and then you click on the link of that series. You see, oh, there is something unique about it. So the more you read, the more interconnections you find, and the more you realize that then the more you can remember stuff. So I used to spend a lot of time reading cricket, consuming cricket just for the sake of quizzes. But later that I realized proved to be slightly detrimental, in the sense that at that point I was only looking for trivia, right? I was only looking for pieces of information that would make for good, good quiz questions. But over the years I've realized, no, that's okay. I mean, that as a young guy who wanted to win a lot of quizzes, I did that. That's fine. But now I want to read it, in terms of stories, in terms of stories that haven't been told, and that's what I do on my page. So that's the thing.
Well, that's lovely. And you talked about writing this book on Dhoni. So what everyone is so fascinated by Dhoni in that sense, because it's a great captain, great character in that sense. What drew you to him and writing a book on him as well?
Well, I wasn't the one who, I mean, I was asked to write by it. But I mean, if given a chance, I would definitely love to write about, a person as enigmatic as Dhoni. And, but I mean, it's great to write about a man that everyone loves, and, there is a certain respect people have for him. I mean, there have been superstars before him. Sachin was a superstar. Virat Kohli is another superstar, but Dhoni is a very different kind of superstar, in that there was no wicket keeper batsman. Forget a wicket keeper batsman come captain combination that was so successful. Right? So this is a player, they don't call him once in a generation for no reason. He is a once in a generation player, and who has captivated the imagination of a billion people, and he has led India to a lot of victories. He has changed the way Indian cricket is played. So there is a lot about him that needs telling, and because of the way he keeps himself, he keeps himself so isolated, and he is not really particular on giving a lot of interviews. So there is very little that people know about him, despite him being in the public eye for so long. for 15 years of his life, he has been playing cricket for India, and for a good decade, he led Indian cricket. But at the same time, there is so much privacy around him. There is so much enigma around him, and the things that he does, and why would he give Joginder Sharma the over in that final of T20 World Cup and all those. So there are a lot of those questions that people have when it comes to Dhoni, and in that book, I think I and Mr. Joy Bhattacharya, who is the co-author of that book, we are trying to take some shots and answering those questions. Of course, it will be an effort at doing it, but let's see how it goes.
So, do you think that because he is so reserved and because he is almost, as you mentioned, he only gives out very few interviews, and there are only a few interviews that are still there which people actually can draw good information out of, is because we are so in and that's the reason we like him, so in the sense that we want to know so much more about him, is because he isn't extravagant in his social media or in the way he presents himself. Does that almost connect us to this whole aspect of romanticism that, oh, there must be something more to him?
Yeah, I mean, you're very correct in saying that, because, we, of course, we raise our stars to a pedestal, all right? And we have done that all these years, okay? And, he's a star, he's a leader who has led us to so many wins, okay? World Cup win, T20 World Cup, Champions Trophy. So, he is someone who is the story of success, right? Coming from a small town in East India, and then through that, taking that route and all that. So his is a story that people want to know more of, not just because, look, he's a star who is hiding things, but also because, hey, how did he do it? Because there is so much inspiration in that story, right? I mean, of course, there have been people who have come from small towns and played for India and all that, but did they get so much of success? No, they didn't, all right? And this man has served Indian cricket for so long and achieved so much success. But then there is also a certain humility. There is also, not very keen on giving interviews and all. So that aura is very attractive to people. And of course, everyone wants a piece of Dhoni, despite the fact that he has just retired.
Do you have a sense of why that may be? Do you feel it's because he's shown this admiration for the army and for India as a country, and he's always been very patriotic in that sense? It's like the intuition I'm sort of getting is that if he is the captain of the Indian cricket team, it's a very, very big and prestigious role, and he's probably thinking of that. I have to represent so many people, so it can't simply only be about me and me as a character. It has to be about the team. It has to be about them winning and doing well. Do you feel it's that element, or do you have some other theory?
No, yeah, I mean it's largely the reason. I mean, he likes to soak all the pressure. Okay, he's someone who, he's this person who is all this calm and composed all the times, and that of course goes a long way in helping the team act as calm and composed. Because when the leader seems in control, everyone, the troop they know what their roles are. So that also helps. And he doesn't really think, as far as I understand, that there is much of a necessity to talk about a lot of things. And it's not that he's not someone who doesn't want to answer things. You see the press conferences and all that, and he's someone who's been asked the most pointed questions, and he always answers them in a very unique way of his own, and with a sense of humor and wit. So it's not that he's so reserved that he wouldn't talk, but he realizes that there are certain things inside the dressing room. He holds it very sacrosanct, and he doesn't want it to go outside. And that's very similar to the way he has lived his life. And he has, I guess, because of the fact that he has achieved so much of success with that philosophy in his life, he likes to keep his team the same way. So yeah, that's a lot of it. Has got a lot to do with the fact that he is a leader of the Indian cricket team. He was for the longest period, and I mean, he believed more than anything. He believed in getting the results. I remember after 2011, in the 2011 World Cup, if you remember, the only match that India lost was against South Africa. And that wasn't a match where India started badly. India had Sachin Tendulkar made a good 111, if I remember it correctly. And India were in a great position till the 45th or 43rd over, after which the wickets kept tumbling. Okay, and they could not make a huge score, which they should have had gone on to make. And after that, Dhoni is supposedly, he supposedly told his teammates that we are not playing for the crowds. Because what happened was that after that start, the crowd started cheering sixes, we want sixes and all. So the players got a little excited, and all these big hitters, Yuvraj Singh, Yusuf Pathan, they all went for the big shots, didn't come off, and that resulted in a collapse. Okay. And yeah, I mean, we lost that match, the only match we lost. So at that point, Dhoni said that, look, we are not playing here for the crowds. We are playing here for the country. So irrespective of what the crowd says, we want sixes or whatever, you need to keep that in mind. The focus should be on victory. And as it turns out, that was the only match that we lost in the tournament. So yeah, he is very focused with the process. And he, of course, doesn't like it when the team goes astray.
No, but that sounds almost so difficult to put forward, because when you are talking about that, you have to look at it in a much broader sense, and that you're playing for your country. But when you are there in the middle of the playing the sort of cricket that they were, and if the crowds are actually on top of them, it almost becomes intoxicating that you have to play for them, because it's so overwhelming if you play at stadiums like the Eden Gardens, the Wankhede, which have massive crowds and a massive sort of noise. So, I mean, I'm just trying to wrap my head around, how difficult it might have been, and how motivating is Dhoni that he's actually able to convince his troops to actually perform in the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where his personality as someone who is calm, composed, and in control is so important, or was so important to the Indian team in that period. Because, as I said, a captain leads best by example. So when you see the captain seems in absolute control of the state of affairs, you as a cricketer also know, okay, this is my role, this is what is expected of me. And, you are not going to panic, because you see the captain, someone they have posited their faith in, okay, he knows what he's doing. Even the asking rate is, say, 9 per over. He knows that things are in control. Or even if the team has 7 wickets in hand and just 40 to get, and, they seem to be coasting along, if the captain doesn't panic, his troops would not panic, right? So that's where Dhoni as a figure was so important to Indian cricket, because, I mean, look, we had our stars, and we had, Indian cricket has been followed massively in the last 20, 25 years. That's all right. But in this phase, in this period, it's because of the television boom, because of mobile phones, and everyone was involved in the game. So it is impossible to not feel pressure. Okay. But a good captain, a captain like Dhoni, he sort of separated that, pressure, cauldron that of a situation. He became the shield. He's absorbed so much of it himself. So, the moment he starts panicking, everyone in the field would also begin to fidget, right? But that's what Dhoni did so well. He did not panic, even in the worst of situations. So yeah, that's why I think that's where he led by example. He's not someone who takes long meetings. Okay, we all know about that, and he's not someone who speaks a lot to the teammates and all. But it is what he does. It is how he conducts himself that is, of course, going to affect any youngster who enters a team. And you talk to cricketers who have played with him, and they would keep on reiterating the fact that his calmness had an influence over everyone around him. So that's why he was so important, and that's why he wasn't in the best of the forms when it was in the 2011 World Cup until the final. But his role was vital, because he knew what had to be done. I mean, it was all very well planned, and he was always in control. He never seemed like someone who is not in control, and that made the team believe. So that's what I think is so special about him.
So I was listening to this podcast. I think it was about Dhoni in that sense, and they were talking about this really interesting thing that I took away from that, was that when he was playing for Ranchi, and then he knew this aspect that because he's playing for one of the smaller states, he's not going to be in, let's say, the Mumbais or Tamil Nadu, so always going to get the attention. So he knew that for him to shine as a player and get represented in the Indian national team, he had to do something extravagant in that sense. That's why when you saw him, let's say, I'm not sure if he opened the batting of the game one down or something along those lines, he used to always play aggressive shots, even if there wasn't a necessity to that. Because he felt that he was playing for Ranchi in that sense, and a smaller town which probably didn't get a lot of coverage in the Ranchi Trophy and other domestic trophies, that it had to be him who had to rise above, let's say, the ordinary. And that's why he never left his state, or he didn't leave his territory and go to another state to play Ranji Trophy.
No, I mean, part of it that is sort of, I mean, he like there was a chance where he could have represented Railways, but that didn't work out. So he represented Bihar in Ranji Trophy and then Jharkhand. And no, I mean, having talked to a lot of people who have played with him, that was his natural style. He was like from the time he was playing for his school in DAV Jawahar Nagar, he was the basher. All right, he would, he scored opening the batting, he scored 200 runs and all those. So that was the style of his cricket. Okay, and he became popular because of those big hits, of course. But yeah, that it's not something that I think. I mean, of course, you cannot go into the mind of that person, but
yeah,
that was just the style of cricket he played. In fact, one of his Bihar teammates I was talking to a few days back, and he said that one thing about Dhoni was that he knew his limitations well, and one of his limitations was that he wasn't very good with his defense. All right, and when you're not very good with your defense, your only option left is to attack. And the attack was so ferocious that it used to get him a lot of sixes, it used to get him a lot of big runs. So that's what made him popular. I mean, even when he was not playing in the Ranji Trophy, Dhoni was a popular figure in a lot of these locally organized tournaments, right? So yeah, I mean, his like people were talking about him even before he represented India A, or even like during his Ranji days. It wasn't about the fact that he came from Bihar or he came from Jharkhand. It was just the fact that he played in a very different way. I mean, we had seen bashers of bowling attack. We had Virender Sehwag who would score, 69 ball, 100 and all that. But this guy, he it's not how far he used to hit the balls. It's about how hard he used to hit the balls. Just a few days ago, there was this report where Joy Bhattacharjya said that, like, when Saurav Ganguly first saw him, and he had a conversation with Mr. Joy Bhattacharjya, and he said that there is this player who plays like, chabuk ki tarah khelta. He plays this with a whip, It's so yeah, that style was very peculiar to Dhoni, and that helped him rise through the ranks. I mean, it is very difficult to ignore that style. You can't take your eyes away. And look, especially when it is getting a lot of success. Like if it fails, you're like, some guy who's trying to be unconventional and failing. But when you see someone who is unconventional and still getting success with those unconventional methods, you want to see how far this person is going to go with that unconventional method. And in the case of Dhoni, his batting style was never out of a textbook or something. Never had the prettiest of techniques, but that is the X factor when it comes to someone like Dhoni. Even with his wicket keeping, it wasn't the most natural of wicket keeping styles that he had. Same with the batting, but like whatever he had, he was sure of his abilities, and it paid him dividends. And he chose the best stage that anyone If someone scores a century, say in a India West Indies match, or in a India Sri Lanka match, it's very easy to not remember it. Remember, Virender Sehwag, he scored his first ODI ton of 69 balls. Okay, 69 balls, and that was in 2001 or 2000, I believe, in 2000 in fact, against New Zealand. Okay, now that's something revolutionary, right? Not everyone scores his first ODI century of 69 balls. Virender Sehwag did it. But how much do we hear about it, right? And that's because it came against New Zealand. While Dhoni's century, 148, he reached his century of 88 balls, which is, again, in front of Sehwag's 69. It's not that great an effort. If you put it in comparison, but it came against Pakistan, right? So you cannot ignore that by any measure. The fact that, and even his first test century, same score of 148, again came against Pakistan. So it is very difficult to take your eyes off someone who shines with his unconventional methods on the big stage against a team as, like an arch rival like Pakistan. So yeah, those were the things that earmarked him for bigger things, and well, he lived up to all of it.
So do you feel that if Dhoni was, let's say, brought up in a place like Mumbai, in like the Maidans of Mumbai, where the coaches would totally be on his head that you have to play the straight drive and you have to play in a certain technique because that's how the batsmen have been trained to play. Like how much of a Dhoni would we have had? Because we've heard a lot about his tennis ball prominence and how the helicopter shot really it came because there was a lot of Yorkers being bowled in tennis ball cricket and he wanted to score off them, so he moved his front leg and tried to whip it in that way. So how much of an emphasis do you feel that if there was a proper coaching element to Dhoni, we wouldn't have the Dhoni we have today, because his wicketkeeper and his football coach were the same person, and so many other players really.
Yeah, I mean, look, that happened in his school, that he had a wicketkeeper and a football coach. Yeah, but what worked for Dhoni, I do not. I mean, I can't answer whether he would have survived had he been brought up in the Mumbai school of cricket. But the thing is that he was as I said, he was unconventional from the beginning, and the good part is probably his coach at that point, because of the fact that he was getting success with that unconventional style. There was no attempt to tamper it. And I mean, why would you tamper something that is paying dividends, right? I mean, we see the batting of Steve Smith, okay? Steve Smith started off as a leg spinner, and, his batting technique, if you look at it, it is very weird all over the place, right? So I guess but the fact that all of these methods, since they have gotten them success, there was no need felt to ask them to change it. All right, and if you see if you see later in Dhoni's career, he did change a few things about his batting style. It was when he came onto the scene, he would wield his bat very ferociously and all that. Now his bat is very still. Okay, he's almost waiting for the ball, and those are things that you change as per as the as the need arises. So he has changed his game to suit because look, when you're playing at say Ranji level or something, you're not analyzed that well, right? People are not going to sit with their laptops and try to study you. But when it comes to international cricket and the scrutiny that Indian cricketers and a star like Dhoni will have, I'm sure a lot of people worked out his initial batting style. But that is the brilliance of Dhoni, that he readapted and he still continued with his success. So that's what is so special about him. And I don't think, to answer your question, if he was if he had grown up in Mumbai and playing in the Maidans of Mumbai, I'm sure someone must have tried to change his batting style. But one characteristic of Dhoni which is so fascinating is his self-belief. I'm not sure if he would have gone on to change that technique much, because he knows from the very beginning of the Dhoni story, he knows what he's doing. All right. So much of calm and control and composure that you see on the field, that's largely because of a great sense of self-belief that he has in his abilities and, in the process. So that way.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating stuff. How do you see people, how do you see his legacy would be? How do you think that people would remember him in the years to come, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line? Would they remember him as,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, how do you feel that they would remember him?
Of course, the most successful captain of India, as you know. I mean, look, very recently someone put out a tweet that he was the most influential Indian cricketer. And of course, a lot of Indians took a bit of a, they were not happy with it, because they said that, hey, you do not know cricketers who came before him. And of course, there is a great history of great cricketers who influenced Indian cricket in a lot of ways. But a lot of Australian cricketers, they said Dean Jones, he said that Dhoni won India trophies, and that's what matters, right? So he would be remembered as that man that, the captain who led India to successes. I mean, Saurav Ganguly was a brilliant captain, leader of men, but the trophies eluded him. We did not win the World Cup 2003, and a lot of. But Dhoni got home the trophies. At the same time, I mean, as I said, that his batting will always be remembered. We did not have a very good wicketkeeper batsman until Dhoni. We tried so many, after Nayan Mongia to Mahendra Singh Dhoni, there were so many of them. They did not, for some or the other reason, they could not establish themselves the way Dhoni did. So now there is a very, the legacy is that he leaves behind a big vacuum, okay? Because he, in this team that he leaves behind, he was not only a wicket keeper, he was a very formidable middle order batsman. And not only a formidable middle order batsman, but the one who knew how to bat with the tail like the back of his hands. All right. And also who knew how to finish matches. I mean, out of the 50 matches, 50 chases in which Dhoni has remained not out, India has gone on to win 47 of them. All right. So that tells how well he knew how to close matches. So as Dhoni leaves, okay, I mean, of course, there was a lot of noise with that, now his reflexes have slowed down. When is he leaving and all of that? But as Dhoni leaves, we realize that we do not only lose a wicket keeper, we lose a very solid middle order batsman who had tons of experience, 10,000 runs. Okay. We also lose a very able, he was not, I mean, he was very generous in giving up captaincy to Virat Kohli before 2017 Champions Trophy, and so that Kohli could build the team. But at the same time, he always maintains, and he maintains it from the beginning of his career, that being in the position of the wicket keeper, you're always the vice captain, because you are the one who is in charge of setting the fields, informing the bowler how the batsman is thinking, what the batsman is playing. So he filled that responsibility very well. And of course, with the vast amount of experience he had and the success he had, Virat Kohli also, he loved going back to him and ask him for suggestions. So that is his legacy. I mean, we will realize the legacy of Dhoni as we see India struggle to come to terms with his retirement. I mean, of course, Rishabh Pant is a great, hitter of the ball, but he can possibly fill the role of a good batsman. Yeah. But can he finish off chases like Dhoni? Can he bat with the tail like Dhoni? Can he, be as insightful as Dhoni from behind the stumps? All those things, all those things are the things that are going to be missed. And in that, we'll realize the legacy of Dhoni. He's not only a great leader, but a great team man who contributed a great deal to the rise of Indian cricket. And as far as the impact of Dhoni is concerned, I would say it was different from superstars that preceded him and superstars that have succeeded him, in the fact that Dhoni is a major figure not only among men, he's a major figure among children and women, right?
Yeah.
And the reason Dhoni's appeal is slightly different, in my personal opinion, from what of Sachin Tendulkar or Virat Kohli is. Now, Sachin Tendulkar burst onto the scene when India was, when the whole television, India was getting used to the television culture. So Sachin's rise was we loved watching him bat, all right? That's one thing. By the time we came to Virat Kohli, we changed in our consumption of cricket. Now it's Crick Buzz and Crick Info, all right? And we consume a lot of IPL, a lot of this and that. So Dhoni was possibly India's last mega TV cricket star. All right. So a lot of us saw that of Dhoni. I mean, a lot of us saw the rise of Dhoni on their television screens. Abhi kya hai? Someone say Rishabh Pant plays a big innings. It's quite possible, the way things are, in the world currently, is that most of them would consume that innings through, their Crick Info app, the Crick Buzz app. So they're not watching that. So Dhoni's playing style, for that particular reason, it is going to remain etched in the minds of a lot of people, because I feel he was the last major TV star as far as cricket is concerned. So that's a major impact. You have to
Yeah,
go to any cricket stadium in the world, and just go to a match where Mahendra Singh Dhoni is involved, and you see the kind of cheer that he gets from people, the kind of love that he gets from people, and it doesn't matter which team he's playing on. So that is, for me, that is his legacy. That, forget the records, forget the numbers, forget the wins and losses as captain. He brought a lot of more people to cricket. All right, just the way Sachin did, with his, like, absolutely. Sachin was a prodigy. Dhoni was not a prodigy. Dhoni is a beautiful story, right? Dhoni is a story of how unconventional someone can be and can still succeed, right? So that story has brought so many people to cricket. That story, I mean, so many people were interested in cricket because of Dhoni, right? So that is his legacy. That, for me, would be like, beyond these cups he won, beyond the runs he scored, that would be his major, stamp on Indian cricket.
Amit, if I have to look at it, I think that we can't simply say that we have to find a like-for-like replacement for Dhoni, be it Rishabh Pant, be it Dinesh Karthik, because I think whoever that may be, and even if he may be very, very talented in the case of Rishabh Pant, in that case, it would be too much of a pressure to put on that person to say that you have to be a middle-order batsman, you have to do a good wicket-keeper, and even provide these strategies from behind the wicket, and be a personality as well to inspire other people. Like, I'm a Liverpool supporter, like I support Liverpool Football Club, and I see similarities here with when Steven Gerrard left and Jordan Henderson was given the armband. And everyone was like, okay, Henderson has to live up to Gerrard, to what Gerrard was. And Henderson initially said that I don't think I would ever be how great Gerrard was. It's just that we have to sort of remodel the way we have to look at, let's say, the position of the wicketkeeper and what we demand of it. And even as a batsman in that case.
True, very true. I completely agree to that. And like, just the point that I'm making is that, when Dhoni goes away, as he has walked off now, so there are multiple roles that we realize, oh shit, we do not have a replacement for, right? I mean, Dhoni, the wicketkeeper, might be replaced by a Karthik, or Dhoni, the batsman, might be replaced by a Pant. But there is so much that Dhoni, as with his presence, did on the cricket pitch, that will be missed. And we will have to, as a cricket team, we'll have to readjust our ways, to that void in the team. So that way.
We talked about, let's say, this prominence of CricBuzz, Cricinfo, and how we consume cricket nowadays. Where do you see cricket going? Like, I mean, I've asked this question to a couple of people previously as well. And I don't know if you've seen, there's a great documentary. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix or some other platform. It's called The Death of the Gentleman's Game or something.
Death of a Gentleman. Yeah, it's made by Jarrod Kimber.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's very well made thing. It talks about the whole politics of cricket in that sense. Where do you see cricket going?
Well, I mean, Death of a Gentleman is indeed a fine documentary. But I do realize that it is getting very concentrated at the top, the big three, the BCCI, English Cricket Board, and the Australian Cricket Board. At the same time, the ICC is making efforts at, it has given international status to all the matches, T20 matches that are played by all the members. Okay. So it is taking a lot of steps. And, as we were talking, like as I was telling you about the conversation with Jarrod Kimber, is that with so much of cricket happening, you see people from Sandeep Lamichhane is a big thing today, right? I mean, how many would have expected someone from Nepal become such a big star? And same is the case with, the rise of Afghanistan cricket. 10 years and they have made such a brilliant rise. So there are a lot of positives. There are a lot of, especially in these stories, as in, you see, like the more these leagues proliferate, and I've been watching a lot of Caribbean Premier League in the past few days, and we have so many players who've plied their trade in USA and are now getting a chance to rub shoulders with the best of players. And so I'm not too sure if ICC is making that happen or whatever, but I can see that cricket is going to spread because of the way we have so many leagues, and it is allowing more and more people to come and showcase their talent. So in that way, I completely agree to the fact that the top three have tightened things up a bit at the top, But at the same time, people who are talented, they are going to come and they are getting a chance to showcase their skills. Just imagine, like, we used to see Kenyan cricket once in a World Cup or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, someone like Sandeep Lamishane representing Nepal, Nepal might not be playing in a World Cup, but here is a representative from that country who is playing, and I'm pretty sure his being in that circuit is also inspiring a lot of people to take
Of
up the
course.
game back home, right?
Of
So
course.
that effect is happening. There are so many people from different countries, especially country places like USA and all, who are taking up the game because they have some icon out there who is playing it. Someone like a Hayden Walsh Jr. and all these people. They would play the game in USA and all, but now they are playing in Caribbean Premier League. They are playing with the likes of Sunil Narayan, Karen Pollard, Dwayne Bravo. They are all established stars of the T20 format, right? So I'm pretty sure that just the fact that they're involved in these leagues, it's going to cause a bit of a chain reaction back home. It's going to inspire a lot more people to take up the game, and yeah, that augurs well for the game. And especially we have seen that happen with women's cricket in the past 10 years. Like, in the past 10 years, women's cricket has come a long way, and that's largely because of these characters that we have had. Like, there is a Meg Lanning, there is Elise Perry, and all these people, they are stars in their own right? And that inspired people to take up the game. And we have had teams from a lot of places coming in playing the World Cup. So I guess this is very important. The fact that these people are getting to play a lot of club cricket, franchisee cricket, and rubbing shoulders with the best in the game, getting a wealth of experience, and going back home and setting up their own academics, and sharing that experience with people who might be interested. So it's a long drawn process, but it's going to, it's going to expand, I'm pretty sure, because of these people.
Do you see more, let's say, nationwide cricket being played later on, or do you see a format which is very similar to how football is played? So almost like how IPL teams function, in the sense that, so IPL teams and teams, let's say, the CPL, as you mentioned, and other leagues all around the world, they almost become entities, and these leagues become more prominent than the national competitions as it's in football. Do you see that as a possibility ever, or is cricket too traditional in that sense to stick to nationwide cricket?
No, that is a, very real possibility. But again, it depends on who is at the top and how. Look, I mean, let's be very honest. It is also about what interests that serves.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if that is the way to go about it, if it is about if the leagues are going to proliferate, and look, there is a Canada T20 league, there is one in Afghanistan, okay. So this is happening, right? Like, these leagues are coming up, and they are trying to fight for a place in the future tours program of ICC and all that. Now, if that is going to happen, I'm sure at some point in the future, the ICC is going to, wonder whether, because look, at the same time, even at this point of time, there's a lot of bilateral cricket that happens that has very little context, right? India plays Sri Lanka again and again, right? New Zealand plays South Africa. So ICC has been trying to give some context to it. That's why the World Test Championship and all of that. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But the possibility is quite real that as we go forward, leagues would become a major thing, because leagues, we also see, are where the money is, even for people who are playing the game. That's where the money for them lies. So that's an incentive for them to take up the game. And I think sooner or later, these bilateral series, until unless they have some very special, like something like Ashes, can never go out of fashion. But these bilateral series will begin to lose their charms. I mean, anyway, they are not attracting a lot of crowds, right? So financially, they are not the most viable for the boards and all. So we will, in all probability, we will in the as we have in football, there is a major World Cup or Euro or Confederation Cup. That is how it's going to happen. But and the bilateral series, as far as I understand, they're going to sort of recede, and we'll see more and more leagues coming up.
Are you happy with that, or is the traditional and romantic in you still wanting nationwide cricket to
Yeah,
continue?
I mean that's a like, I'm torn about it. I'm torn about it because to be very honest, I mean, there is only so much cricket that you can consume, right? As a fan, I can
Yeah.
absolutely say that I remember each and every match that I watched from 2000 to 2008 online.
Wow.
All right, every match. Okay. After that, because of the fact that the volume increased so much that it all became a blur, right? We've had like since 2008, 2020, there have been 12 editions of IPL. I remember having watched a lot of those games, but I don't really remember them very well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that fandom has sort of diluted because of that. But at the same time, like as I said, that the bigger picture would be, the better picture would be that more and more people
Mm.
play the game. Currently, like for the longest time, I mean, cricket has been played by a very small bunch of countries. So like as someone sitting in England or as someone sitting in Australia, I can say with a smirk that no, I want my ashes and nothing else matters to me.
Mm.
But
Mm.
at the same time, if you think of someone in Nepal, he would want to
Yeah.
see more and more of Sandeep Lamishane in action whichever league he plays in. So yeah, I mean, I won't say that I'm entirely happy with the fact that so much cricket gets played and that it becomes a blur, and so many leagues are propping up. But at the same time, look at the amount of people who get to play cricket because of that.
Of
I
course.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there are so many stories in the IPL of people who, you know, coming from small villages and all, and them getting a chance. And of course, look, at the end of the day, if it remains, based on country rivalry. 14 countries, 144 players, like one whatever that
Mm.
equation is, because at the end of the day, 11 players play the game, right? Look at the pool now, because of we know so many cricketers and so many cricketers are getting a chance. So I mean, as a viewer, I would say, yeah, I would like only things to remain a certain way. But as a lover of the game, as someone who would love more and more people to take up the game, I think it is only fair that the leagues proliferate and we see more and more people getting to participate in the game. Just imagine, there have been so many great bowlers, great batsmen who didn't get a chance to represent their countries because, well,
Yeah.
only 11 people can play, right? But now we have, like, now these people are getting a chance to be seen on television. They are getting a chance to be, rubbing shoulders with the greats of the game. So yeah, it is a beautiful story. Praveen Tambe's story, 49-year-old man playing in Premier
Yeah.
League. So these are beautiful things that are happening, and like I mean, I can be very selfish and say, "नहीं यार, मुझे तो बस अपना ashes
uh,
चाहिए." But नहीं, I mean, for someone like just imagine the uh, I don't know if you know about it, but Amjad Khan, the guy who played Gabbar,
hmm.
his son is someone who is also pretty big figured like him. And I don't know, I was reading a report about him, and he's very interested in cricket, but he took it up very late in life. Okay. And now he says that because I have seen Praveen Tambe making his IPL debut at the age of 49, 42, that gives me inspiration to, give it a
Yeah.
go. Even if I have picked it up at say 27, 28, I can still give it a try and see if I can get a chance at in my 40s. So this is what I'm talking about. It is like, if I would be very selfish if I say ki yaar, I'm just happy to
Uh,
see just these certain set of countries to play, because if you are playing that level of cricket, remember, those 11 that we are talking about, they have to be the best, the fittest, and quite possible nobody beyond 35 or 34 will be playing, right? So these leagues are making all those things happen now. So yeah, those are the kind of things that makes me feel like proliferation of leagues is a very good thing to happen to cricket.
so it's very lovely that we talk about, let's say, the more and more people who can play cricket just because of the amount of players that are available in, let's say, these leagues and things like that. But a counterpoint in that sense could be made that this could also almost deteriorate Test cricket totally in that sense. So I'm not sure if you've heard this. So Harsha Bhogle was invited to a talk and he spoke about why Test cricket is dying and what we can do to preserve it in that sense. And then he talked about, obviously, we've talked about the World Test Championships, but he said that Test cricket isn't competing with T20 cricket or ODI cricket. Test cricket is competing with social media. It's competing with TikTok. It's competing with YouTube. It's the fact that if you have a television set and it's showing an 8-hour game or whatever, you can easily switch to something else and that draws your attention. And that's what Test cricket is fighting against. So do you feel that if we have these leagues that are more talked about and are played all around the world, the Test cricket wouldn't be so enriching and something that people would want to associate to?
I'm not too sure really. I think we have been listening to these conversations about Test cricket is dying, Test cricket is dead for a lot of years. But at the same time, if you realize, in the past 10 years or so, we see so few Test matches getting drawn, right? So there are matches that are yielding results, and most of these Test matches are yielding results in 4 days. Now, if you see why that is happening, that's also because a lot of these players are T20 cricketers. So when the need arises to sort of, up the tempo and, up the ante, and so they can play it accordingly. So I think T20 cricket, of course, there is a large question of how good their technique is for the Test format and all that. But this has also resulted in a very different mindset for, people who are playing Test cricket, is that people are going for wins. There is very little motivation to just like draw the match. All right. So there is something positive that has come out of the emergence of T20 cricket as far as Test cricket is concerned, that it has made the game more result oriented. And I think that is going to help Test cricket gain back its foothold. I mean, what people do not like is something that is non-competitive. You see a team batting first, scoring 700, and then the next team comes and scores 600. That is not what people want to see. People want to see a Test match which comes up, which gives a result, right?
Yeah.
So T20 has, I feel, led to that, a lot of it. And it has given new skills, new set of, you see new dimensions in Test cricket because of T20 cricket. So as long as Test cricket is able to produce results, as long as it is able to give exciting cricket to the viewers, even if it is across 4 days or what, it is going to retain its, audience, right? So I'm not too sure if Test cricket is dying. We keep hearing that, and then if you realize, every year we have a match like the one that we had last year at Headingley, right? The Ben Stokes innings. In the same year, we had Kushal Perera play a brilliant 153, in South Africa. So we have these Test matches which are like, wow, they're so amazing, right? So the way I mean, I don't think Test cricket is competing with anything else. I think Test cricket is competing with its own poor reputation, that 5 days of just people slowly dawdling around and giving no result. And if it is battling with that reputation, it is also shedding it quite quickly because of T20 cricket. So I do not think Test cricket is going to die very soon, and I think it has only helped Test cricket to gain a new lease of life because of T20. So that's what I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, this thing that you're talking about, I think this makes more sense, because I was thinking that what would actually happen would be that we would have 3 sets of teams that every country would have. So like India would have a specific T20 specialist team. So 11 set of players who are specialists in the T20 format, 11 set of players who are specialists in the ODI format, and 11 set of players who are specialized in the Test playing format. But I guess if you, because we have seen instances that of the Ben Stokes innings and so many other innings that people can instantly change because they are so used to playing IPL, playing T20 cricket. That
Yeah, I mean I guess Ben Stokes scored 70 odd runs in the last 40 minutes of his innings. So it wouldn't have been possible had it been it wouldn't have been possible had that innings come 20 years ago. So it's like T20 has brought a new mindset. T20 has made cricket more attacking, and you see the impact of it on Test cricket as well.
So, I mean, if I have to ask you a more philosophical question, if you allow me, why do you think sport is important in society? Why do you think that we care so much about sport in that sense?
Wow, that's a great question, and I would love to answer that because I come from a liberal arts background, and I know society. I have studied society and politics and all of that, and of course, sports is important because it gives us it gives us something to look forward to. It's just not an escape, right? I mean, we don't watch sports because we want to shut off everything. We want to celebrate something, and sports gives us something to root for, something to celebrate. That is not our personal story, that is not our personal glory, right? Irrespective of how I'm succeeding or failing at life, if I'm rooting for Liverpool throughout the year, I'm waiting to see how they are performing. So that is an anchor in our lives. Okay. So yeah, I mean, sports has that. It is very difficult to uh, put it in few words, but it has that appeal where it is not just one of those things in life. It does become an anchor to your life if you are devoted to sports that much. So, just because, as I said, that there are stories out there, stories of people like us, and it's great to see how those stories pan out in the longer run. I mean, the reason why we are talking about Mahendra Singh Dhoni today is because, well, he came from a small town, unconventional methods. So many people thought that he would not really succeed with that technique or that method, and then he went on to become the great cricketer that he did. And that is what is so beautiful about sports. I have never met Dhoni, right? I've never met Dhoni in his life. I've never met a Sachin Tendulkar in his life. But the amount of happiness that I've drawn from his straight drives and his cover drives. So that is what sports is about. It is about something else that we can fixate our emotions to, like irrespective of whatever condition we are in our lives. There is something to cheer about. There's something to like, yeah, this is mine. So yeah, that's why I think sports is going to be important.
Amit, do you feel it's I don't know, it's I've asked this question to a couple of other people as well. So do you feel it's that we have this inner sense of we're always seeking for meanings in our life, and sport is a sort of way we can find meaning because it's sort of similar to religion in that sense because it's being associated with a tribe, it's being associated with a cause. It doesn't matter if you believe in the god or if you believe in the team winning. It's just that the fact that you are together and you are there for that 90 minutes or for that 3 hours if you are watching a cricket game. And it doesn't matter whatever else is happening in the world, you're concentrated on that. And that's why even if we've never met MS Dhoni, we know almost everything about him and we are such big fans of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's you've put it very well. I mean, I guess a lot of these fandoms and all, they come from a sense of need for belongingness, right? A lot of people derive their. I mean, why do you see people in India wearing Manchester United or Liverpool jerseys and going around? Because to be very honest, Manchester United people do not even know that they exist. But the fact is that they know that they belong to a community of fans of Manchester United in India. So yeah, sports that way is very important because it's like binds us. It gives us some sense of belonging, and you develop new communities through sports. As in, I mean, I've met the best of people in my life in the last 7 years thanks to cricket quizzing. The whatever I've done in my career, it has like I did my master's in political science, right? Yeah. So I had very little to do with sports, but then I got into sports quizzing, I got into cricket quizzing, and I met these bunch of great people, wonderful people. And what were we connected by? We were connected by our collective passion for sports. And I have had great relationships with these people, and that is how it's going to be throughout my life. So this is something, it gives us a chance to establish connections beyond our very small circles. So yeah, that way sports is, you can anchor your identity to it.
Do you feel that can become harmful like after a point? So I don't know how big that is in cricket, but I guess it is in that sense. But like I can draw similarities to football in that sense. And there's this aspect of football hooliganism. So if you look at the the English football structure, and every team is so well supported, and that fans take it almost to their heart if their team loses, that it can lead to violence often. towards other fan groups, or even when they go to international tournaments in that sense. Do you see that in cricket when, let's say, India plays Pakistan, or if there is an Ashes tournament like that, that almost that the media portrays it as this old harmonious thing that, oh, there are two countries coming together to play just a game of cricket. But do you feel that there can be, if there isn't at this point, in essence, that it leads towards other things that shouldn't be what sports should be associated with?
Yeah, look, those are byproducts of anything that is popular, anything that has a popular appeal. It is going to develop its own set of fans, its own set of detractors, and at some point, those fans and detractors will come into confrontation. But again, that set is going to be a very small number, right? And you don't need India Pakistan, right? If you scroll through Twitter right now, you will see like such fan wars going on between Virat Kohli fans and Rohit Sharma fans. Okay? So people, like, sports does that. Sports invokes a lot of passion. People get a little too carried away in that passion, but at the same time, that's a very small number, and like the sport is never going to be defined by that, acrimony and all that. Like, I mean, the contribution of sports is way beyond that little bitter episode, right? I mean, it does so much to so many people in so many positive ways. So yeah, it's a little bunch of people who are foolish, who are ignorant, who are absolutely they are bereft of knowledge, and they get into this because they have no better thing to do. Yeah, I've seen so many of these fan wars, and it's just like, there is no point in pulling someone down to raise your own hero. But of course, that doesn't, some people just don't understand it. But yeah, I mean, I guess, to be very honest, it also tells about their passion. And I believe, I'm not too sure of how it goes, but I believe it's also a part of growing up. If it's also like, at some stage of our lives, we are particularly attached to certain things, and we can go to any extent to to cheer for it or support it. But then, of course, the bigger responsibilities of life dawn upon us, and then we grow a little distant from it. So I guess it's a part of growing up, and also, it adds spice to sports. If it was not for the rivalries, cricket would be very, or for that matter, any sport would be very boring. All right. But yeah, some people bear the brunt of it. Very unfortunate. But if you do foolish things will happen to you. So that way, I really don't think that it's such a big thing to really be worried about. Like, any sense of rivalry is important for the sport, and it's just that sometimes it goes beyond the accepted norms, and then some people suffer because of it. But again, it's not the fault of the sport. It's about how people consume it. So it's about people.
Yeah, that's what like I drew to as well. That obviously in an ideal society we wouldn't see that, but it's almost a byproduct of us being so consumed and so invested in that particular sport, or even political parties, or whatever you may want to draw that comparison with.
That's what I said. Anything that is popular, it's going to develop its own set of fans and hate groups, and they will come in confrontation. So it's not only about sports. The thing with sports is that the emotions go like from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. All right. So that is why we see so much hooliganism, as far as, because when everything pans out in those 90 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So there is not a lot of time to contemplate your actions. You're like, this guy is hitting him, let me hit him as well. So that's why sports, it's a little tricky with sports. But at the same time, it's not very different from other aspects. Yeah. And there is a lot that sports does good to the world, and I think those aspects always overweigh the these little banters and bitterness.
For sure. So you've spoken to Snehal Pradhan, who's an obviously ex-former India cricketer as well, and you spoke to her about, let's say, women's cricket and the prominence of women's cricket. So what were some things you drew from that conversation, and what are your thoughts on women's cricket as a whole?
Women's cricket, I would say, I mean, my views, I will be very honest, have changed drastically over the past 5 years, I would say, because I really didn't consume a lot of it because it wasn't there on
TV. Yeah.
So I mean, I was only reading about it, and whatever little I did consume, it didn't seem to be very similar to men's cricket, right? I mean, if you know, the boundaries are shorter and all those things. But what is so fascinating about it, and what has really changed my mind about it, is the way it has grown in the past few years. I mean, it has grown by leaps and bounds. I watched the entire T20 World Cup that happened in February, and like there earlier when I watched cricket, there used to be real stark differences, from the way men play it and women play it. But now, in just a few years, I have seen that change, and we have such brilliant hitters of the ball. There is this Shefali Verma at the age of 16, at the age of 17. She's such a good hitter of the ball. There is Harmanpreet Kaur and all these players. So I'm really astounded by the development it is making, and that development that it has made in the past few years, it raises my hopes. And I think, there is no reason for it to be not as popular as men's cricket. Also, a lot of credit goes to, what the Australian Cricket Board and Cricket Australia and ECB have done, the Women's Big Bash League and, Vitality Blast.
Yeah.
So there is a push coming from there, and that has helped it grow. And again, look, this is again, I would say, where T20 has really helped things. Okay, because T20, the kind of hitting, the kind of skills that are required, it has, I feel, coaxed these players to go out of their comfort zone. Earlier T20 games, if you see the scorecard, they would barely manage a run rate of 6, all right, which is of course not par for men's cricket. But now you see, in the last 4-5 years, it has changed dramatically, and that's because these women play so much cricket in these leagues. They play so much of women's cricket. They play so much of T20 cricket. And when these women, who play so much of T20 cricket, when they go back and play ODI cricket, that also reflects on the ODI results as well. So yeah, I mean, I think in the last decade or half a decade, women's cricket has come a long way. And if the World T20 is anything to go by, the interest it generated, I think it's only going to go farther. And I think it's also a bit parochial from our side that we see it as the other cricket. All right. I mean, I realized in this while that I was wrong to compare it with men's cricket. Right. Women's cricket is never going to be the same as men's cricket. Okay. It will develop its own set of fans, and just as women's tennis has developed, just as other women's basketball has developed. So, it will develop its own set of fans, and its journey is going to be very different from men's cricket. But again, I think it is because of T20 that it has sort of fast-paced its journey and has become so very, closer to men's cricket at this point. So yeah, it really augurs well for women's cricket.
You drew about some examples about, let's say, the great players who've come out in women's cricket in India and abroad as well. So probably in India, and you can look at a larger scale as well, what do you think we've done correctly in promoting women's cricket? Is there, I'm not sure, like we talked about boundaries, so making it preferable for them earlier on and then getting them acclimatized to how it should be played, or just how do you think that we have done it so correctly in the country and abroad?
No, I mean, if you listen to that podcast with Snehal, she tells how, earlier women, like, again, there was a different board for women's cricket and all that, and it wasn't very professional in the way it was played, and it has become that way in the last 7 years or so. And again, these are things that it runs in a circle. The more you play, the better you get. So earlier, if you look at it, Jhulan Goswami, she made her debut before James Anderson. James Anderson today has 600 wickets from 160 tests or something like that. Jhulan Goswami has played 17 tests in all these years, right? So the cricket played was very little, okay. And now in the past few years, that has not only the cricket played has increased, it's being broadcasted. People are seeing their stars. It's not that, they like a Smriti Mandhana or a Harmanpreet Kaur, they are, there are stars that people know who they are, right? Earlier, in the time when I was following women's cricket, like in the early 2000s, there was Anjum Chopra, there was Mithali Raj, these cricketers were doing well. I would read about them in the newspapers. But it makes a great difference when you can see their cricketing style. And, now today people can say, yeah, Smriti Mandhana does have a cover drive very similar to Kumar Sangakkara. Or Harmanpreet Kaur, she wears the number 7, sports jersey and plays like Dhoni. These are things that people can say today because they are watching it. All right. And so that has happened. Like, we see more of women's cricket on television. And again, women's IPL, people are like, it has happened in the past 2 years only, but there has been a lot of push for it. And also, in general, I feel like, with the rise of icons like say Saina Nehwal or a PV Sindhu or Sania Mirza in the past 15 years, sports for women has come up like as a major career option. So say 15 years ago, someone might not have, even if that person had the talent, she might not have had the guts to take that plunge and go and pursue a professional cricket career. But now they realize that no, there is actually hope. There is actually, a space to create a name for myself, to establish myself. So that is what has happened. It's just not what BCCI has done. It's the way, it's again, larger feminist movement, more focus on women's sports, and, the role of these icons like Sania Mirza, PV Sindhu and Saina Nehwal, that has gone a long way in making sports an option for these people. You see Jemima Rodriguez, she's so young and she's so talented. But the reason probably she could, she's 18 or 19, right? The reason she could come up the ladder, she could, rise up the ladder is probably because while she was growing up, there was these brilliant stories of, a woman from Haryana like Saina Nehwal growing up, going on to win a medal at the Olympics, same with PV Sindhu and all these. So these stories are very important. And you were asking, right, why is sports important to the society? This is what sports is important to the society. So many, I mean, you get these stories, you begin to like, try to think like that. So many times I'm not like making this up, but I'm like, what would Dhoni do? If I find myself in a pressure situation, it's like tomorrow I have an exam. It's 9:30 at night. What do I do? All right, I would look up to say a Mahendra Singh Dhoni. I would be like, okay, stay calm, control the controllables. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, those icons play a great role. And in women's cricket, that has happened, in the past 5 years or so. So a lot of factors have come into play. And that's why Indian cricket is going to do very well in the coming years also.
So this is another question I generally ask often, and something I think about as well. Do you feel that in a country like we are such a big cricket following country, cricket loving country in that sense? Do you feel that it is possible for another sport to rise to the echelon that cricket is on? So if I'm talking about a sport like football, if I'm talking about a sport like badminton, maybe, do you think it can ever compete with, let's say, a sport as big as cricket? Or would it have to be at the cost of one? So if football ever became that big, it would have to be the detriment of cricket in that sense. Do you think we can coexist with two sports or multiple sports?
I have worked, I have worked with football. I was part of the FIFA Under-17 World Cup, we have media team. I was the media manager with the Pro Volleyball League. I have seen very closely the growth of Pro Kabaddi League. So, as far as working is concerned, I've never worked with cricket, but I've worked with other sports. And that's partly because, the challenge lies there, because it is not very difficult to sell cricket. Cricket, everyone is going to be interested, even if it is a India versus Zimbabwe series. But the challenge lies in working with these sports that are possibly not in the top 3 as far as, Indian public is concerned. But to your question that, do other sports have the potential to rise as far as cricket? I would say this is a population of 130 crore people, right? So I have believe that like the entire 130 crore people are on cricket. They just need good alternative. Let's be very honest. The way commerce works is majorly the reason why cricket is cricket today. I mean, people took to cricket in large numbers in the 90s because and that made BCCI a rich board. Money creates more money, as they say. So that's what happened. A lot of these sports, kabaddi or volleyball or football for that matter, they have a lot of, at a grassroots level, there is a lot of appeal that they hold. But the problem is, do you know who is the captain of Indian volleyball team in 2018, 2019?
No idea.
You do not. And why is that? Because, I mean, pretty much every school in India has a volleyball court. Okay? Volleyball is played at pretty much grassroots level. But the reason that these people do not pursue it professionally is because they don't have stars to to look up to. They don't have these sports, these games being shown on television. So how do they know ki yaar, I mean, why does a say 6-year-old kid pick up the cricket bat? Because he sees Virat Kohli playing with it, he sees the fame he gets. Okay.
Yeah.
But when it comes to other sports, that doesn't happen because of the way the commerce is skewed. Right, because volleyball won't get a lot of say people glued to the television. People are not going to watch it. So there are people, broadcasters are not interested. The federation is not doing too much. So that is the only trouble. It's not that cricket fixates 130 crore people. It's just that for some people, cricket sells. And it is, in the interest of people, the people who make a lot of money out of it, that cricket keeps selling. So the moment we have, say, like we have had the Indian Super League in the past so many years now, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people must have seen those games and are like, hey, I want to be there. But what if that, those things were not there? Like, you have to give them some semblance of what your future would look like, right? So that is my opinion, that India does have a huge population and there is a space for a number of sports to become the premium sports. The reason it is so skewed today is because of the economics of cricket, and there is no dearth of talent. There is no dearth of talent as far as these sports are considered. I've worked on volleyball, kabaddi, and the moment someone can push them beyond the concerns of economics, that is the day that these sports will also develop their own fan bases. And you see how well kabaddi has risen, right? Kabaddi 10 years ago, it was just another sport people were not looking at. Now that it has got the platform, there are big stars coming out of it. There are people who like Pardeep Narwal and Deepak Hooda. They are stars, and they are stars that kids are looking up to. So that is going to have an impact. That is going to make these kids take up the sport. So that's what my answer would be, that there is enough population, enough talent, enough, you do not have cricket happening 12 months, right?
Yeah.
There is enough scope. It's just that, even if right now you switch on Star Sports, what you will have is King Kohli ki classic innings, or they would keep on playing the footage of the highlights because that is what gets them viewers, right? So the day the economics of sports change, we will realize that, oh my God, there is so much potential in other sports. And I mean, look, I worked with, as I said, FIFA Under 17 World Cup. I was working in Kolkata. It was a game between Honduras and Japan. Okay, this is Under 17 World Cup. FIFA Under 17 World Cup, but Under 17 World Cup. Honduras and Japan, Salt Lake Stadium, 45,000 people came to watch that game.
Wow.
Honduras is, most people would not be able to even identify it on the map. On the day of the final, the final, FIFA Under 17 final,
it was sold out, right? Yeah.
Sold out, right? So what does that say? It says that you have to show it to people that, look, this exists. The TRP ratings of a Pro Kabaddi League, what does that say? It's just that before that, people were not presenting it this way. You know, like, okay, 10 years it's been of Pro Kabaddi League, right? The stars who started with season one, they are no more there. But new stars have come up, right? And who are these stars? These are people who started playing it, or who started taking it seriously because the first season was on air. So that has a lot of impact. That has a lot of bearing on the future of a sport in the country. So, and there is enough grassroots talent, whatever sport you talk about. It's just that they don't see, they don't make it a professional choice because they don't see enough of it on the big screen, or they don't see much of a future with it. So that is the reason.
But like that's what, and I totally agree with those points. But it is very difficult to see that happen, though. Like another sport really emerge as biggest right because of the capitalist society we live in, and as the things you talked about, that if it is making them money, why wouldn't Star Sports want to promote that? It's well within their incentives and well within their interest to keep promoting cricket, even if there isn't any fresh content, if you said. So yeah, that's the whole essence I was talking about, that because it's come to such a pedestal that it would almost require India to do something so heroic, almost like beat Argentina and let's say some game somewhere to get that even some sort of relevance in a national scale.
Yeah, I get that. But again, I'm just saying that one doesn't need to topple another to reach that stage. And, to be very honest, like cricket, the way it is going to remain in that position for another 100 years or so, at least next 50 years. What is important is that other sports rise, right? And that's what I'm saying. The rise of something like Pro Kabaddi League, I mean, of course, like the economics of cricket are such that Star Sports keep showing, highlights of old matches and all that. But at the same time, because Pro Kabaddi League is such a promising product, you see the number of teams that have expanded. You see the number of people who have come out and put money in those teams and all. So it is taking baby steps towards becoming the second most followed sport in the country. So there is a lot of hope in that story of Pro Kabaddi, right? And similarly, like it's got a lot to do with how the federations plan it. How, like, a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders have to be equally motivated. It's not only about the broadcaster at the end of the day. I mean, there is, like, the media has to be interested.
Yeah.
People, we need good talent pools. All of that has to happen. So multiple stakeholders, if they push together, I'm pretty sure that's different sports can. And it is not about toppling cricket off the perch. It is about at one point focus on growing your sports, growing. Its appeal should grow. So that is going to happen sooner or later. And look, at the same time, I don't know if it is just my conjecture or not. As I said, that my consumption of cricket on television has declined severely, right? And it's just not because I grew up or something, but also because there has been a lot of excess of cricket, and India keeps playing Sri Lanka in bilaterals and all that. So after 2011 World Cup, we had the IPL in a couple of weeks, right? And the ratings of IPL 2011 are shabby. So there is also a lesson in that people are not always going to be watching cricket. Sometimes they would get a little, this is too much. This is in excess, right? So, I mean, that's why I'm saying that beyond cricket also there is a lot of scope for other sports. They do not have to be aiming at toppling cricket off the perch.
Yeah.
They have to aim at growing the sport. And it's just not about showing the sport on television. It's about, if you're showing the sport in television, what is happening at the grassroots? Are there enough academies developing new volleyball players or shooters or all those things? So multiple stakeholders have to be very committed towards the development of sports. And if you work in sports in India, you would realize that that is not how it is. A lot of people are just happy because there are happy good government jobs. And so that has done a lot of bad to Indian sport.
No, I've seen that for myself. So I've gone to take some of my coaching licenses in the Delhi Soccer Association, and now there's sort of been a change because there's a change in leadership there. So Saji Prabhakaran has come in, but before that it was very much government led, and they used to treat it as a government job, come in and stay until 5 in the afternoon, go back, and not really even care about what's happening outside, and just really be with their set of friends inside that office, and not care too much about the sport even in that sense. But
Yeah,
but
that's
uh,
a,
but
that's
yeah,
majorly
Kabaddi,
the reason that sports like hockey and
yeah,
all, they have seen such a downfall, because people at some point they just stop being really serious about the development.
yeah. No, but Kabaddi is a very interesting case study to look at because I'm not sure you probably are aware of this that the way they're marketing their league is that they're looking at tier 2, tier 3 cities, which is where they're generally getting a lot of their consumption in terms of how many people come to watch the games and things like that. And that's actually aided them to promote it to such an extent that they have so many followers on social media that as you're saying, that they're such big personalities in today's day. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
So that's exactly what I was saying, that like with 130 crore people, you
Hmm.
will not have everyone completely fixated with cricket. And even if people are fixated with cricket, I love to watch kabaddi, I love to watch volleyball, I love to watch football. So and despite being absolutely obsessed with cricket, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, I also get really like, you can't consume the same thing all
Hmm,
the
hmm, hmm,
time,
hmm, hmm.
right? So you enjoy these little breaks of kabaddi and all, and it's about the way it has been packaged, pro kabaddi league and all. It's very easy for it to draw a new viewer, right?
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
are targeting the young people, they are targeting people in tier 2, tier 3 cities. So it is making its own fan base. And yeah, exactly as I said, that with this amount of population, we should have at least 10 sports
Yeah.
in the same position as cricket. And it's not, it has got not nothing to do with the fact that people are not passionate about sports. you s- in Kerala, football is massive. In Northeast, football is massive. In
Yeah.
Bengal, football is massive. It's massive in Goa. There are
Yeah.
such huge pockets of football where football is popular. Okay, it's just that complete, you know, I would say political apathy or what, that they haven't really risen beyond that passion. And just the fact that they do not have a club to support of their
Hmm.
own, that's why people are supporting
Clubs
Liverpool
abroad.
and
Yeah.
Manchester United. Yeah, you have to see, when Neroka FC, it's a
Hmm.
team from Northeast.
Of course. Yeah.
I worked with I League, okay, and I League
Right.
presents some of the best football stories, because these are absolutely people who people are not watching, but they are
Hmm.
so passionate about the football they play, and they love it. They love it when when the crowds come, and you go to Shillong Lajong, you go to
Hmm.
Neroka. These
As
are
all.
teams, yeah, as all. These are so you see the amount of support these people have, right? So there is no dearth of love for different sports. It's just that in a way our mentalities are shaped in a way ki just because cricket is there on the television,
Hmm.
that's why cricket is the only sport. No, India is equal to multiple sports, but like on television it would tell you that it's only cricket.
It's also this aspect of social media. So like if we are like the both of us were living in tier 1 city sort of, and we are looking at social media that in an Indian context that is sort of related to your Delhi, your Mumbai's, your Chennai's, your Calcuttas, and not very much focused on what's happening in other cities. And that
Yes.
sort of then trickles down to thinking that, oh, this is the representation of India. Be it in a sporting context, be it in a political context, be it in whatever context we may want to look at.
True, very true. Like, I mean, um, going a bit beyond sports, the
Yeah.
way uh, I mean, I was just discussing with my father, there was just last month only, there was major hue and cry over the fact that it is going to rain in Mumbai tomorrow. Okay, it is going to rain in Mumbai tomorrow, and that is when 20 lakh people have been affected by the floods in Assam.
Yeah.
So for media, India is equal to
Amit, that's still a considerable story. There were some reporters who were saying that they were under Amitabh Bachchan's bed, and that got more footage than the Assam floods and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that it has got nothing to do with passion for different sports. A lot of why we think India is equal to cricket has got a lot to do with the way media works,
just if we just look at, let's say, Virat Kohli and Anushka Sharma and them announcing that they're going to have a baby today. That's all over Twitter, and that's all we see. And not only in an Indian context, if we take it in a much larger context, if you look at problems that we face and what we see on social media, it's very much West driven if you look at it. And at least this is my assumption, is that if we look at an aspect like Black Lives Matter, that always gets so many retweets, so many things, and it rightfully should. But there's so many cases that happen similarly in India, where you look at northeastern people who aren't given the respect, or they're discriminated against, and that gets nowhere close to the amount of even like, I don't know, recognition on our feeds, even though that's closer to us physically as well, and we would associate more to that because it's something in our country. But just the way the algorithms are functioning. So yeah.
Of course. Social media is herd mentality. So it's like, if I see 10 people posting something with that hashtag, so I am also like, I think I should do that too. So that's how it is going to be, and that doesn't really tell.
Do you think it goes down to the scary route then? Because I've spoken about, I'm not so sure if you know about this, but YouTube has started censoring content. So they said that if any doctor or medical professional puts out medical content on their YouTube channel, and if it doesn't abide by the WHO's guidelines, they aren't allowed to put it out, because that's what YouTube has said. And I'm not trying to discriminate, not trying to say that the WHO hasn't put out great content in the past. But how can I trust the WHO looking at something where they are basically supporting a Chinese agenda, or looking at aspects when they even said that the masks aren't necessary? So why isn't another opinion even encouraged? Is my escape of things. We have looked at what the BJP have recently signed a deal with Facebook, and there's so many other things we can look at.
Yeah, a lot of that is happening. A lot of our societies are shaped by how the social media wishes them to. I mean, these are not, as they say, that if you are being given services for free, then you are the product. So we are being shaped, and it has come out considerably clearly with regards to the Cambridge Analytica, where on every person there was a 5,000 pointer data that these like parties had because of Facebook and all these hackers. So yeah, I mean that's how it is with that's beyond sports, but yeah, a lot of us are very lured by social media, and then we also lose ourselves in social media and become part of a lot of echo chambers. And you see that in sports as well, the fan wars that I'm talking about and all that. It is partly because of that itch to be a part of some group, that I would abuse the fan of this cricketer or this footballer. So yeah, social media does have its own set of but at the end of the day, it's us who are using it. So there is a lot of expectation that we do the right things with it. If we can use it wisely. We are having a conversation for the last 2 hours, and we have exchanged information and knowledge, and we have talked so much. So again, it depends on how you use it.
Exactly right, Amit. So like this sort of a conversation where we don't have our phones, where we don't have sort of distractions, we're only sitting down and conversing with the both of us. This may be something that is almost archaic in society today, because every 5 minutes we get a notification and our attention is drawn away, and we aren't given this opportunity to just sit down and concentrate on thoughts that we may think about and how they would actually function in society. It's similar with almost everything, with sports as well. Like they're given short press conference that they have to give out everything in 30 seconds, 8 minutes, because that's the TV footage that's allowed.
Attention span,
yeah. That's what the politicians are also said to have. Like there are these 8-minute debates, so you have to function all your policies or everything that you have possibly come up with, and in this short bite, because that's what people want to hear. Whereas I'm a big fan of the Joe Rogan podcast, and that was the inspiration of starting this.
Okay.
So he had these 3 hour long conversations, and he said that who's to say that 8 minutes is all that people are interested in? If someone can sit down and actually articulate their thoughts in a way people want to hear, then people would come in to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that is how it is, and I hope that people no, because it is also a reality that people have now reduced attention span because of a lot of reasons, because of social media, because of this constant itch to know what is happening. With the thing with Twitter is it is massively addictive because like 2 minutes, if 2 minutes have passed since you opened it the last time, so many new tweets have come, right? In that, yeah. So that itch is there. That itch is distracting us, and it has affected a lot of our experiences. And that's why, like, consuming sports, as I said, that it has changed in a major way in the past 10 years or so because of social media. And that's why so many people, I mean, when I said Dhoni was the last TV star, that's because we were at that point of time, we did not have these like Facebook accounts or Twitter accounts to simultaneously deal with when watching a Dhoni innings or a Sachin innings, right? Our attention was completely captivated by some magic that was unfolding through the bat of that batsman. So that's why it's very different now. Even sport, for that matter, I don't know if people are equally serious at consuming sports because like everyone is multitasking at today, be it watching a movie in a theater or watching sports. So yeah, it has affected every aspect of life, and I'm glad that people are doing podcasts this long.
I hope at least someone is listening so that maybe someday I can have maybe a political party leader on my podcast to articulate his thoughts. So yeah, that's the hope. But tying everything back to cricket, I guess, and this sort of last question I have for you, because there is so much to know about cricket, and there's so much you know about cricket as well. Like I often, like I know I watch a lot of cricket, but I know I don't really know a lot of good books to pick up in terms of there's good writing out there or matter that I should actually know about in terms of cricket. If you have, let's say, could you give me some book recommendations that maybe you've read about cricket or even outside cricket in that sense, and that you've really enjoyed and you think that would be good additions?
I can give a lot of recommendations outside cricket, but I would stick to cricket because that's what the podcast was. But yeah, as I said that uh, you know one cricket writer that you should read, everyone should read, is someone called Gideon Hay. He is an Australian writer, and he's written some brilliant books. I mean, yeah, like if Jarrod Kimber is on one side of the spectrum, he's on the other side because he romanticizes the game so beautifully. All right. So Gideon Hay has written some wonderful books. My personal favorite is a book that he has written on Shane Warne. It's called On Warne. Okay. So that would be recommendation number one. But again, I also feel that not everyone should be uh, given the hardest to read book at the beginning, right? So like On Warne is, I would say, someone who has watched a lot of cricket, who has consumed a lot of cricket writing. Someone would really like that book. At the other end of the spectrum, you can start with something like Vikram Sathe has written a very beautiful, sweet little book called How Sachin Destroyed My Career. Okay, so it's a wonderful, very short book, but the way it's written, it's full of humor, and he tells about his story of how growing up watching Sachin, it like Sachin was such a distraction that he could not be good at anything because all that he wanted was to be like Sachin. And then he talks about different cricketers that he has interacted with. So yeah, that's a wonderful place to start, right? I mean, I wouldn't want someone to dive into the deep end at the beginning. So something on the other end is this. Then there is the Corner of the Foreign Field, which is by Ramchandra Guha, which talks about the cricket of the like pre-independent India, post-independent India, that era, and it's more about the society and cricket. So those are three books that I would like everyone. I mean, those are on different positions in the spectrum. So yeah, there are lots of books, lots of brilliant books to read, and again, depends on the interest. I mean, there's one wonderful book on English cricket called England by Simon Wilde, sorry. And yeah, it's a thick book, but again, it tells the story of England in such a beautiful way in terms of English cricket. So very comprehensive, very well written. So again, depends on your interest. And then there is Beyond the Boundary by CLR James, which talks about, it about cricket through the idea of race in the Caribbean. Okay, it's a very important book. It's just not important for cricket, but the society out there. So yeah, I mean, those would be my recommendations if I were to give one. Like if you are the very serious kind, go for anything written by Gideon Hay. Like if the best of Gideon Hay would be On One. Second would be Become Sathis, How Sachin Destroyed My Career. Third would be Corner of a Foreign Field. Fourth would be England by Simon Wilde. And fifth would be Beyond the Boundary by CLR James.
That's lovely, Amit, and I hope I can have you sometime again in the future. This was great. This was great. I mean, I enjoyed thoroughly these 2 hours that just flew by.
It went from cricket photographs to MS Dhoni to hooliganism to coming to the effect of social media. But I absolutely loved talking all of it because as much as I love my cricket, as I said that I'm a liberal arts student, I come from that background and I see a lot of it through that lens. So I'm pretty happy that we didn't only talk cricket, we also talked a lot about society and philosophy, Chandra.
Thanks for coming on. I hope to have you sometime in the future discussing the book you're currently working on, maybe.
Sure.
And just for the viewers, if there's anything you'd want to plug, your social media handles, where they can find your work, feel free.
Absolutely. I mean, if you are watching this, then Random Cricket Photos That Make Me Happy, a very stupid sounding name. That's my page name. And at some point I also asked people on the page that should I change the name, right? Because it does because I was giving an interview for some position, and because I put so much effort in this page and writing on it, so I said that I run this page called Random Cricket Photos That Make Me Happy. And at the same time, when I was saying it, this sounds a little stupid, doesn't it? but then I put it out there on the page, and I asked people that do you want the name of the page to be changed? And there is this person called Harjot Singh, someone who's been a follower of that page for a very long time, and he says, you know what, there is happy in that name and I would like it to remain that. And I'm like, okay, this is the best reason someone could have come up with. So Random Cricket Photos That Make Me Happy, and that's how it is. I mean, those photographs are really things that I enjoy coming across, and that's why I share on that platform. So that's my Facebook page. The Random Cricket Photos That Make My Guests Happy is the podcast. You can also check it out on YouTube. And Random Cricket Photos and Videos is how I go on Twitter. So those are the 3 handles that you should follow. Random Cricket Photos, the Facebook page is solely for stories. You will find a lot of videos and opinions on Twitter. And podcast, I'll keep getting more guests and talk and ask them about their favorite cricket photos.
Great, man. Great, Amit. Great conversation. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure's been mine.
Thank you. Bye.
If you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, do consider following Amit and his work in the links that are attached in the YouTube show notes. Moreover, if you'd also want to follow me and my work, do consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, dropping me a review/rating on Apple Podcasts. It helps me reach a much larger audience base, or simply following me on my social media handles, which are as follows. My Instagram handle at @ishan_, my Twitter handle at @agarwal_, my website/blog ishanagarwal.net. I would also like to thank Nandini Agarwal for the amazing thumbnail artwork. You can follow her and her work on her Instagram at Nandini Studio. It was just fascinating speaking with Amit. I mean, the knowledge he has about cricket and how passionately he talks about it, it was just really invigorating for me. And I hope to have conversations like this often, like very often. This is one of the reasons I've started the podcast, just that can delve into conversation for long hours, basically, with my guests. But I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you did as well. Until then, see you.